Oh, GM. Yo, GM. Gonna kick this stream off in just a couple seconds here. Hope everyone's vibing tonight. Super Sunday night after the weekly close. It's been set. All right, I'm going to bring this volume down on the music. I'm going to keep it playing, though. It's been a nice vibe the last couple episodes, the last couple streams, having the music playing in the background. How's everybody doing tonight? Looks like we got about 8 of you here right now. Nice little turnout for this Sunday evening. Taking a look in the chat. Let's see who we got here. MKS333 says GM. GM right back at you. Nunar Vibes. Yo, GM Nunar. Always appreciate having you here for the streams. Mr. JJ, GM, buddy. And 1111 Moses also says GM all. Dev wallet for car is worth 515 million. Well, good for that African Republic. It looks like they're adding some increasing their baseline GDP with that one. What a crazy cook. I will admit I was not focused this Sunday and I did not catch that play, but I know some friends that got in quite early and it was a great cook, so GG to them. Okay, let's get this underway. So we had the weekly close. Kind of ended where it was towards the end of the week. It really hasn't moved too much. I'm going to pull that up in a second. Maybe I'll change the beat up since we've been listening to this one for a little bit. Let's switch it up a little bit. Try and find someone a little bit more tame in the background. Let's see, what have we got here? A little bit too vibey. It's a little bit too bouncy. I want it to be pretty chill. That's something pretty chill. All right, that's pretty chill. Okay, so we had the weekly close. Let's pull that up. It was one of those kind of weeks where it was a lot of "it's so over, we're so back, it's so over" vibes. Well, I need to pull up and share my screen. 1 second. Where is this? Okay. So we've had the weekly close. As we can see, Bitcoin still just chopping around in this 3-day range and kind of bounced up into the middle of the range. And it's rejected some. Let's take a look at weekly. Okay. I mean, it's just a consolidating range on weekly, right? And like up here, like just something I've been noticing a lot, and this happens every time though, right? It's like everyone gets real bullish at the top of the range and real bearish at the bottom of the range, which generally speaking is the opposite that you want to be feeling, right? You want to be feeling bullish at the bottom of the range, bearish at the top of the range. I put out a tweet about that over the weekend, and it echoes some things that like some traders that I've followed along their journey and learned from over the years, so that their sentiment that I've learned over the years, right, is like when things are trading in a range, is clearly outlined on the 3-day here, you want to get bullish down here. And when we're at the top, you want to be looking for signs to maybe de-risk or get bearish. No, not like long-term bearish, but just like to the range, right? We formed the range back in December, and we ran the lows, we ran the highs, we've come back close to the lows, we popped back up into the mid-range, and now we're sort of dripping down. there was more talk. Was it today? Yeah, there was some more news about tariffs that came out today with the US related. So that sort of led to some of this sell-off. If you're looking at sort of the macro picture of things, you take a look at the BTCD chart on 3-day. Well, look at that. This was a level that I had been monitoring, and I mentioned in the AFM Telegram group and in a few other places in some group chats that I was really monitoring this 3-day swing high. Now, the last 3-day close was a sweep, but we've actually gotten a close above. Let's take a look and see what that's looking like on weekly. Yeah, we got a weekly, which is significant time frame close above the range high. That's quite significant. To get a weekly close, that is a weekly higher high on BTCD. And if we flip back to 3-day, you can see, okay, there was a 3-day flip above. So what might be something that we could expect here, because we've got a higher high on BTCD and a correlating weak looking total 3, which is total crypto market cap, less Bitcoin and less ETH. That is looking weak. Now, some things that, so what does that mean? What can you expect during that? Well, when a chart is like when Bitcoin is bullish and going up and BTC is going up, it means that Bitcoin is outperforming to the upside. When prices are kind of coming down and BTCD is going up, it means that altcoins are performing worse compared to Bitcoin. And we can see ETH drooping down further than BTC, Solana looking a little bit heavier. And we can see by the percent changes, like Bitcoin's down less than 1%, ETH down 2%, Solana down 1.6%, and just a general much heavier red looking list of altcoins. There's a little bit of green. Fartcoin seeing some green, which we can look at. Popcat seeing some green, which is here. I posted this chart on Twitter actually earlier today that I'd been seeing a lot of chatter on the timeline about Popcat. Now it's firmly in a daily bearish structure, which we can check on the daily because this is a daily supply zone that it's kind of run up into. These are 3-day charts that I have up right now, by the way. But that's just like the quick overview of what's been happening. I think we're going to drill down a little bit more into some sex pairs, into some of the alts, which is what I want to do for these weekly close shows, is less of a focus on on-chain charts. And we'll save those for some of the other shows throughout the week. But the weekly close, I really want to focus on a high-level overview of what we might be looking to expect in the week ahead. So that's just a general picture. I mean, Solana is still daily bullish. Here's your daily range. Let's switch this back to daily since we're on 3-day. Here's your daily range. Swing low, swing high for Solana. It's trading in an interim range here, a lot of chop. ETH is just sort of, now what I do see on ETH actually is it did put a sweep there. So maybe ETH is trying to bottom here. It's not the daily range low, but it did put an inter-range sweep. So that's something to monitor, that maybe ETH might be trying to bottom here. And I actually see on Bitcoin something similar right here. Where is the, yeah. So Bitcoin did actually sweep that level. It's an inter-range swing. It's just a swing low that has been swept, which can be pretty decent signal. Like we can see here, we had a daily sweep and then it sold off. Well, now we've had a daily sweep to the opposite direction, so maybe we're going to start to get a bounce upwards. And what might support that would be the BTCD chart putting in a higher high. Now, I do see a fair value gap here, so it wouldn't surprise me if BTC does some sort of move down into here for a higher low before going higher. What's a fair value gap? Well, that's an area of wide displacement on a candle without a candle activity within that area. So you take it from the candle preceding and the candle after, wicks included, or just body if there's no wick, and that's a fair value gap. It's an area of supply or demand. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see some sort of trading down into here to find the higher low on BTCD. But on the daily chart for Bitcoin and for ETH, not so much on Solana, but Solana had been stronger. So there was like, if it were to sweep something, it would have to come down here or down lower. This, I mean, it's looking like it's trying to bottom total 3, but it is weak. And this is just generally telling you that when you look through the watch list. That's sort of like the quick overview. I'm going to pull up TradingView in my browser, and we can take a look there so I can run through things a little bit more in depth. I'm just going to take a look through the chat. Does anyone have any questions they're curious about on that? For that quick look at majors, I mean, we had a big sell-off, and now the market's just digesting it. ETH ran into weekly demand, but overall ETH has been weak, and you know, yes, there's trades to be had. There's a joke that it's a great coin for shorting, which has been kind of true. BTCD is really what's standing out to me, though. I mean, look at that. It flipped that level, retested the level. This is on daily, right? Retested the level, and it just sort of swept it, and it's starting to bounce again. So, what we're looking for on Bitcoin right now, for a sign of a relief bounce is for this to hold. Is this swing level right here. For a bounce, maybe it's going to take a bounce and come back up into the mid-range, up into supply perhaps. Ultimately, what I would like to see, and that what we haven't had yet and that we front ran, was when this flush happened, we didn't actually come down and sweep the range low, and we also left this low untested. Ideally, what we want is a proper sweep of that, and potentially and preferably a sweep of that to just clear out that low and then reclaim to go up. That would give us more fuel for this move, because as of right now, it's just a lot of chop city. And yesterday, yesterday, well, the daily close just happened, so today, but technically yesterday, according to the UTC clock that crypto follows, people were getting bullish again at the mid-range. And really, the mid-range, you want to be neutral. If you're positioned from lower, great. You're riding that up, and you're neutral, thinking, okay, are there signs that maybe this is where I TP? Or if you're not in the play, well, the least ideal scenario is to be trying to buy here, because you have a 50-50 chance you could go either way. And there is an old adage that when a coin is trading in a range, or when an asset is trading in a range, you don't want to be diddling in the middle, and that's the exact mid-range. And I sort of called out on Twitter. I put a tweet out like that I was seeing a lot of hold on, let me pull it up. Let me switch my screen. Let me switch my screen. We can pull it up. There we go. Maybe I can. Yeah, I think that's better. I put out a tweet where I was saying, where is it? Yeah, this was yesterday. Bad takes are a dime a dozen, hot takes are few and far between. Don't fall victim to idiots yelling from their soapbox when nothing has changed. We're still trading middle of the range. Oh yeah, it's Sunday too. Now what did I mean by that? I was just simply saying, you start to see people get really bullish the middle of a range when literally nothing has changed, and you want to be neutral as possible mid-range, unless you have reasons to think, or reasons to that you're recognizing bullish setups starting to occur. And it's nothing against people, anyone in particular, getting bullish. But it's just funny to watch how sentiment flips when there's no real reason for it to, for tiny little bounces. And also another one, some people presume, other people react. The only predictions worth a dime are the ones that look one step ahead. If this, then that. We're not about predicting, right? So it's people that have these drawn out predictions well in advance, it doesn't really make sense to me. Because the market doesn't give a fuck. The market will do what the market wants to do. Just be adaptable. And this also echoes what I was saying, like, nothing has changed. BTC continues to trade the high time frame range, and range low is where we want to do business. So when we come back down to the bottom of the range, which is what I was outlining on Bitcoin. So ideally what we see, I mean, yes, I was pointing out that sweep, but it's looking heavy and getting back into that level again. But there is a decent chance for a bounce up in off of here, maybe up into here again before we come back down. Or we fully reclaim and we start going back to the top of the range. There is a case for an entry here, just off of that sweep alone. Probably what you'd want to be doing though is you want to be looking on lower time frame to see if you get a trigger. Now, what sort of trigger would that be? Well, you actually had a bearish trigger right there when you got that H1 sweep and then it sold back down. What you would be wanting to look for here, say you're looking at this from the daily, you see the sweep and you're saying, okay, I think that's going to hold. Well, what would I be looking for? Well, what you want is a close, an H1 close above this level, and then you would look for a demand retest somewhere in here, wherever the demand happens to form, and you play that for the bounce, looking to go beyond the range high. But as of right now, you don't have that. It could be shaping up, but it's yet to be seen. I'm going to start diving more into some perps-based things for these episodes, though, because I know there's been a greater demand in the market lately for perps, as on-chain hasn't been as hot. And things like sweeps, those triggers are incredibly important. especially when you see, okay, this is a clear H1 lower low, right? You got to close below there. Well, there's the H1 range high, H1 range low. So here's your H1 range. What you're looking for is an H1 higher high. And then you'd look to buy demand somewhere in here to go higher. Other potential entry would be a sweep at the H1 range low. But right now it's just sort of dead middle of a bearish H1 range. Does anyone have any questions at all? Pretty chill in the chat. Okay, we'll keep moving along. Let's take a look at a little bit closer at the Solana chart as well. See if we've had anything lower time frame. H4 has been pretty choppy, and we're pretty much dead middle of that inter-range area. Let's go to H1, see what we've got. A lot choppier. You can see the difference between the way that Solana trades on H1 versus Bitcoin. I guess it's still pretty choppy, but there's a lot more clear levels, at least to my eye, that are taking place. But if I were to have to say what is going on with Solana right now, well, here was your H1 demand that it's tagged and so far is bouncing off. Why is that the H1 demand? Well, because here was your H1 range. It was a bullish H1 range. When you got to close above here. There was your H1 higher high. Actually, no, it might have been above here. And swing low to high, close below. Yeah. So your H1 turned bullish when it flipped this level. Creating the bullish H1 range, and it's come down and tagged demand. It had a good bounce. Now it's coming down to retest it. And you can actually see it's starting to put in a better bounce now. Like when we first started the stream, Solana was down closer to 1.6% in the red, and now it's up to only minus 1% on the day. So maybe we are starting to put in some local bottoms. Now by local bottom, I don't mean locally we go back to the top of the high time frame range, just local for the next move or so, for sort of intraday scalps, etc. I know there was also a few requests about BNB. I don't know how many of you noticed, but over the weekend, there was a token called TST or test that absolutely mooned. And it got some tweet interaction and engagement from CZ. And a couple people asked about BNB itself. So we can take a look at BNB. Let's see. In the chat, Moses is saying, I'm just concerned about Monday Open, to be honest, wondering how stocks will react to all the news this weekend. Well, you know, one quick way we can sort of foreshadow that a little bit is with futures. And if we open the NASDAQ futures, currently green, if we open SPX or S&P futures, currently green, that's a positive sign. You know, if we did gap down for the close or for the open, and what are futures? Those are just futures contracts. They usually, or they open the night before on Sunday before the week opens. and they also open later in the evening, the day prior during the week of the next session. I think it's something like 7 p.m. Eastern for futures opening for the Sunday for the following week, and then during the week I think it might be like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. I can't remember the exact time, but futures are telling you they don't really care. Both NASDAQ and SPX are green on their futures open. Now that can change between now and tomorrow morning, New York Open, actual. But for now, those are pretty decent moves for futures. It's just something you'll have to monitor overnight, but I mean, that's the signaling that perhaps the tariff news isn't going to be perceived as poorly on the New York Open. I think what's important at New York Open is you monitor the initial move, but really the true move happens a few hours into the day, unless it's an instant gap down and sell off, which to me right now, it's not necessarily looking like a gap down. It's looking like it might actually be a gap up, which is interesting considering CT was panicking and crypto itself was front running the selling, which crypto tends to do. I mean, crypto is a 24/7 liquid market. It's global. And when people feel one way or another about markets in general, it's the first place they look to express their views about how they think things might play out. So if they think that headlines are bearish and could impact things on a global level, it doesn't even have to be global, but if they think things can impact markets in a significant manner, they will express those views on crypto by shorting. Or if something super bullish happens, then they'll express those views by longing, because it is, like I said, it's a 24/7 liquid market. And people will look to capitalize on their viewpoints or their position, their bias, by entering the crypto markets, because it's the only place they can do that on a Sunday afternoon. But for now, it doesn't look like TradFi is signaling any concern over this tariff news. That is pretty bullish. Now, does crypto start to recover from here? Well, maybe that sweep will be important, right? Maybe that sweep will end up being important. I'm going to pull up the BNB chart because, like I said, there was that runner over the weekend, TST, which we can take a look at that chart as well. So what I'm looking at on this BNB chart is where the market structure is. This is weekly. Let's take a look at 3-day. Okay, so the BNB chart is, oh, okay, it actually flipped bearish on the 3-day when it closed below there. There was your 3-day range from there to there. It had one sweep and bounce, but then it's since lost the 3-day range. So 3-day on BNB is actually bearish. Now I'm going to point something out and say that I don't actually think a material season starts to take place on Binance Smart Chain. I think it every once in a while it gets these several days of a couple tokens doing well, but overall, not many people actually want to trade on BSV, to be honest with you. It was popular during last cycle as an alternative to Ethereum because of the fees and the speed it gained a lot of traction, and there was a lot of super crazy runners that took place on that chain. But I think whenever those pockets of activity pop up on BSC, it's kind of a forced narrative, and usually occurs when sentiment on Solana has been sort of in a downtrend and a little bit in the dumps, because there hasn't been a proper runner and things have turned incredibly PvP, which is exactly what we saw in Solana, right? Like trend just kind of died off, and then BSC spawns a runner, and people start talking about, oh, maybe it's BSC season, BSC. And yeah, there's been a few opportunities on the chain, but in that period while everyone was not really focused on Solana, all of a sudden this weekend again, there's been multiple coins that have gone 100 mil plus. Most notably, yesterday there was Jailstool, and today there was that coin from the African Republic, CAR, the CAR token, which has gone to, like, we'll pull up the chart in a little bit, but like 700 or 800 mil. Now circulating is 20% of that, so the actual market cap is much lower, but still a significant run. So, as I was saying, BNB 3-day chart bearish. Why is this a bearish range? Well, there's your swing high that created a swing low, creating a lower low, closing below the previous swing low on 3-day. You can look at daily, and you can see on daily, it's come up into supply, and it's rejecting. There's your supply area, cluster of price action before the large move that created the lower low, bounced up into supply, and rejecting off of there. I don't really see any particular reason at the moment to get bullish on this. I mean, yes, this aligned with the big sell-off on the entire market last week. Well, we've had a bounce up into supply, and it's showing signs of rejection. Doesn't mean it comes all the way back down here, but for now, you can take a look on some of the lower time frames. There. Yeah, I mean, it came and perfectly tagged the H4 supply within. Just front ran it a little bit. It came very close to that H4 supply, but with the tag up into the daily supply and 3-day supply. I mean, that's a 3-day supply zone. Even though you don't have the candle, like, this is supply here. This whole area here is supply. I mean, it would take a significant spur of activity on BSC. It doesn't, like, the BNB coin itself is not a specific reflection of BSC chain, even though it's the gas token. So you don't have to make your decisions based off of that. So now I do have, I do notice a larger amount of people more interested in perps, as I was mentioning. And as you all know, or maybe not all of you, but as I've said in the past, like, where I learned my trading system and was learning how to read charts and how to understand what was taking place, it was on perps. Now I've adapted the majority of my system to be on-chain focused, and that's where I spend the majority of my time, but the principles themselves are based, were learned on perps. And they, when you learn the system that I trade and that I teach, it's applicable to any financial instrument. You can trade it on any market. There's just different nuances that you need to look out for that can help you excel in those environments. Now, say you were looking at a coin like BNB and you saw that daily was bearish and it came up into daily supply and you were like, well, how do I know that that's a short? And you're like, yes, you could have just blind shorted the tag into supply, but that's a very large stop you need to leave. You need to leave, you need to give leeway that it could trade all the way up to here. And what kind of a percent move is that in here? From there to there, that's almost 8%, plus you'd want to leave a little bit of leeway for your stop. So you're looking at almost a 10% stop, which is pretty significant for perps. So what are different ways that you could have looked at this to say, okay, my bias high time frame is bearish. What would a trigger be that I'd look for? Well, it's the same thing we do on chain. You say, okay, my daily is bearish. I want to look for a trigger on H4 or H1. Now, you haven't gotten a trigger on H4 yet, but on H1, I see that we had a lower low right there, right? Swing high to swing low, hourly close below, creating a shift in market structure. Then you had a run up into supply where price tagged and sold off of. And that would have been your entry there. You place your stop just above this hourly swing high, right? Like there's your hourly range. There was your hourly bearish range. From there to there. And you got the close below here. You're waiting for price to trade up into supply, and you enter your short on that tag, and you even had a good extra confluence of it running right in to the daily and 3-day lower low swing level, the level that broke. It tagged it perfectly. And then all of a sudden, instead of a 10% stop loss placement, you're looking at 1%, a little over 1%, which is a dramatic difference, right? And since then, it's actually made another hourly lower low. So now what you're saying to yourself is, okay, if price trades up into here on a bounce, your bias is bearish, or your bias is short. So you're looking for a bounce up into here. Maybe it puts in some price action here, puts in an inter-range swing high, sweeps that swing high. Well, that would be your trigger to go short again. Little things like that. I've actually been dusting off my analysis for perps charts because I know there has been more of a demand on it from people. And once you understand the system and how to look for triggers and what those triggers are and how to understand your invalidation. I mean, one of the key things for perps is your invalidation and knowing where your trade thesis is wrong. And the trade thesis goes wrong if the bias of the time frame you're trading on shifts. So say price came up into here and you got a short trigger, but then all of a sudden you get an hourly close above here. Well, that's your invalidation. Why is that your invalidation? Because then your bias is shifted back to bullish. And maybe it wants to trade back up into here again before selling off. But this is for scalp type trading. These aren't long-term holds. Unless your conviction is really high, and since daily and 3-day is bearish on this chart, well, that's a relatively decent reason to have a longer position stance. But for people that are just taking these as as intraday trades or scalps, these are the type of triggers you look for. And if you really wanted to get really, if you really wanted to be snipe scalping, like we can take that fractal we just had on the hourly and we can apply that to 15-minute. And how do we do that? Well, we knew it was bearish high time frame coming up into here. But what else did we have here? We had an M15 lower low, tag up into supply right here. There was your trigger on M15. And then you have a much longer short trade because your entry is so tight, right? Yes, waiting for the H1 version is a little bit more of a confirmation. By doing so, you're entering the trade later. You know, these are the things that you look for. Like, what you do is you pick the asset that you think is going to give a high beta move, either to the upside or downside, relative to the macro bias. So if you're biased short on Bitcoin, like say you think, okay, I think we're going to trade down towards the bottom of the range, or at least have a short setup occurring on Bitcoin, you want to be looking to the altcoins that you think are going to give you a higher beta move compared to Bitcoin, so you can capture a larger move. And so you go through your watch list, you highlight the handful of coins you think will give you a larger move in that bias, and you watch for the triggers to occur. Like you do the same thing. You go, okay, high time frame. Here's my range high. Here's my range low. Bias is bullish or bearish. You figure that out. You look for your supply zone if it's bearish, or you look for your demand zone if it's bullish. And then you drill down to lower time frames and you just wait for your triggers to hit. Now you can have a bunch of other trades that occur within the higher time frame move, but the best return for your trade, the best risk reward, is getting the setup within or as close to the high time frame range high or range low as possible within the demand or the supply zone. Let's take a look at some of these. Let's maybe pick one or two other sex pairs that we can go down this path on. Does anyone have a sex alt that they'd be interested in looking at at all in particular? Maybe what we can do is we can look at PopCat, because that has been one that's been popping up on the timeline quite a bit recently. So PopCat, we'll go 3 day. 3 days bearish on PopCat. Now that doesn't mean it can't find a bounce, and it in fact has been bouncing. It had a sweep of that intro level, but now it's had a daily close above, so we can get rid of that level because it's no longer as relevant. And it's sort of front run this daily supply. Now, if Bitcoin decides that it does want to put in more of a bounce, and we can see bounces occurring, right? Like when we started the stream, Bitcoin was down like 8.8%. ETH was down 2%. Solana was down 1.6%, I believe. And now we've bounced quite a bit, or a little bit, not quite a bit, but a little bit. So maybe you get that bounce up into the supply on PopCat. It is still just consolidating after it moved down. I mean, it's been going down for a while, right? It's had these periods after the flushes, where it's traded sideways, gone up a bit, flush sideways up a bit, flush sideways up, flush up, flush sideways. So it wouldn't surprise me to get something up into here, or potentially even all the way up here, because truthfully, the range high, the bearish daily range high on PopCat is all the way up here. Now that would be a significant move. And if we're going to get some sort of short squeeze, I could see it taking place. But what it has to work through first is the supply zone on daily. So probably what happens is it comes up into here. If we are going to get a relief bounce, seeing that equities are green on futures, that if BTC continues to push up, if Solana continues to push up, I could see Popcat pulling a move up into the supply zone before a sell-off, or pushing up here, consolidating a little bit, and then flipping this demand into a breaker for a bounce potentially up towards the top of the range. That's yet to be seen. I don't like to predict too far like that. We can see H4. Okay, so H4, this was actually a decent setup because here on Popcat, you had an H4 bullish flip when you got the close above here, right? So on H4, bias turned bullish. It came down into H4 demand. This is your H4 demand. Now on H4, there's no clear specific trigger. The thing that looks closest to a trigger would have been this wick. Let's see if H1 gave us anything else. Yeah, you had a sweep of an H1 level. Now it did lose. It did make a lower low on H1 there. So it's a little bit choppy to be contending with. And sometimes coins like this are a little bit harder to find those perfect entry triggers. But those are some signs you could have been looking for. Now it's gone on to make another See, this is where it can get a little bit complicated because you actually did have H4 lower lows when you closed below this level here. All right, it closed below, then it closed above and tagged. So there actually, there it is right there. This is why it's so important to understand bias on multi-time frame and how you can have the primary trend and counter trends and able to recognize when market structure shifts, because yes, as I was just saying, H4, it did flip bearish again. When it closed below this level here, you had a bearish H4 range, then another lower low, bearish H4 range. Well, then you got a bullish H4 flip when you closed above this level here. Right there. It came down into demand and tagged. And then that's where it was enough fuel to move this up. For over a 50% move. Almost 60% move. You put that on leverage. You don't even have to do high leverage. You know, 3x, that's a 150% move. 10x, that's quite a decent move. But then you're getting up here and then you're like, okay, what are my signals for exit? Well, all of a sudden you're getting all these H4 sweeps. Sweep, 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 you know? And those are the sort of exit triggers you start looking for. And it's just about taking your fractals and refining your setups and your triggers and getting a good grasp on what those triggers are. I'm just going to scan through this list and see if there's anything else. Okay, let's take a quick look at Fartcoin. See how that's been doing. So Fartcoin again, bearish daily range, swing high, swing low. Quite a bit of chop, and it's rejecting off of this high time frame weekly level. Drill down onto lower time frames. Well, you had an H4 bullish flip when you closed above this swing high over here, and now it's sort of come into, well, not sort of, it's come into this H4 demand, and it's bounced a bit, selling off a little bit, but you're looking for this H4 to hold, and then maybe you'll get a push further up into the daily supply. Now, why was this the demand zone? Why did I account for that? Well, because you didn't get the H4 bullish flip until there. Now, yes, there was already a move off of here because you had a range low. Did it sweep? Yeah, look at that. It just front ran it actually. But a range low, generally decent area to punt if you're looking for mean reversion. And it was a good move. And now you're just looking for the higher low off of that move, right? You got a higher high. You're looking for the higher low to be here to push to another higher high. Those are just some techniques for perps trades of what to look for. And like I said, it's very similar to what we do on chain, just with some different nuance, and the triggers are sometimes a little bit different. Sweeps are way more reliable. Now, they're important and reliable on chain, but for perps, they're like another level of reliability. Because those are the types of triggers that people are looking for. Because what a sweep is indicating, like when you had a sweep here, was an unwillingness to close above that level, which means that as soon as it closed back below, you had people looking to short that or sell it. Because they're like, okay, the bulls were not strong enough to close above that level. People were ready to sell there. Well, we're just going to short it. Whereas here, when you got the close above finally that level, there's a slight advantage to both. And so people that switch their bias are saying, okay, I want to look to buy a higher low. Where would I look to do that? Well, in demand. And there it is. Hopefully that's helpful for everyone that's watching. Just going to take a scan through the chat. Another question from Moses. If you could look at Bera. I haven't actually even looked at the Bera coin, but we can look at Bera. Where do I even find Bera? Is that a sex? Is that? Can I find that on TradingView? Probably. Let's see. Bera USDT. Let's see. Shall we look at the? Is there a perps pair or is it just spot? Bera perp. There we go. The Binance perp chart of Bera. Ooh. Okay. Let's go to daily. I mean, you've already had a daily lower low. Not looking great. Go down to H4. It's looking rather weak. I mean, I think if it finds a floor soon, it's going to run up into resistance at the supply zone. There's already a little bit of supply forming here. Like if this 4-hour candle closes below here, you're already building in more supply here. 4-hour close in 32 minutes, so it's one worth watching, but you're potentially putting in another area of supply right here. And your swing high would be there on H4. You have to watch how that closes. Like there are some buyers stepping in, but overall though, I mean there's H1 supply. There's your H1 bearish range. It hasn't fully formed the swing low yet. You need that 3-candle pattern, so we don't know where the swing low is yet. It could be this is the swing low forming right here, but you already have hourly supply, which is low time frame. Let's take a look at how it's responded to other hourly supplies though. You know, closed below, came up and tagged supply, sold off. Closed below, came up into supply, tagged supply. Why is that the supply? Well, here's your cluster right here. All right, tagged it. Another sell-off. And again, came up and supply, sold off. I mean, it's not looking so hot for Bear at the moment, right? And it's actually trading incredibly clean. Like this would have been, and I know people that actually shorted this on day one because most day one listings these days are pretty bearish. What did it launch at even? $11, and it's now down to less than $5 from listing. Down 58%. It's been down almost 60%. Not a great look for a listing. Do you guys see what it is that I'm outlining here, though, when I'm doing these, and how you can just look for these triggers based off of the same fractals that we look for on chain? You know, what are the things you're looking for? You're looking for how do I do a okay, you're looking high time frame bias, bullish, bearish. How is it that we define, let's make this larger. How is it that we define the bias? Well, you're looking for a swing low and a swing high range. You're looking for your range that either created a higher high or a lower low. And if you made a lower low on the highest time frame available, that's a bearish high time frame range. And if you made a higher high on the highest time frame available with ranges and swing levels, swing points, that's bullish. So you're looking for your high time frame bullish bias. Is it bullish or bearish? Then you're going to define the range, which means the swing high and swing low that forms the range. Then from there, you're going to outline your supply or demand zones. Supply for bearish bias, demand for bullish bias. Meaning supply is where you'd look for price to sell off from after a bounce, and demand is where you look for price to bounce from after a sell-off. So you're looking for the higher low, or you're looking for the lower high, depending on what your bias is. After you've outlined your supply and demand zones, you switch to low time frame, and you look for triggers. Sweeps, or fractals, high time frame, playing out in alignment with low time frame. So what does that mean? A sweep is what you got here. You got a range high sweep right there. What's a sweep? Is just you have a swing high or a swing low. That price sweeps that level by wicking down below it. Sorry, this isn't a demonstration of that, but like, okay, there. These were sweeps, and this is very easy to see, right? You had a swing level, that price swept, failed to close above, swept again, and then you got the move, right? So a trigger in low time frame could be a sweep or a fractal of the high time frame playing out on the low time frame. So they're aligning. So what does that mean? Well, you got your high time frame lower low tag up into demand, or tag up into supply. Well, then you're looking for a low time frame to print a lower low within the high time frame supply or demand. In this case, supply. You're looking for when price trades up into there, the fractal to play out. So you're looking for an M15 or an H1 lower low, and then a tag up into supply. Sorry, there's no candles here that I'm signifying that with. I'm just using this supply area, right? Because what did we say? We had H4. Let's clear this off. All right, so here's your H4 range. What you'd be looking for is if price trades up into here, into the H4 supply, you switch down to H1, and what you're looking for is, after that counter trend move, which the H1 bias, if it's going to move up into here, will most likely flip bullish. Well, then you're waiting for it to flip bearish with a lower low on H1 and then a tag up into supply, and then there's your trigger. You're just looking for that fractal. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense to people. And we can dive into these concepts more on future weekly close episodes. But anyways, I think that's enough of majors for now. Maybe we'll take a look at the handful of coins that were bullish over the weekend, starting with this car token. Maybe what I'll do is I'll bring it over here into BullX, and we'll pull that up. Oh, here's the sand token from the last show that we did with my buddy Too Tall. Also, shout out to Too Tall. I think that was a really fun episode about research and what he looks for when he's doing research into coins. I think that was very useful, not only for me, but from the feedback that I've received from people that watched that episode with us. So I think that was, we're going to make that a recurring show. I think Friday afternoons we're going to try and do, but it was very helpful. But this was a token we had up in that session, and price was here somewhere. And I was outlining, well, you did the range low, range high. I would suspect to come down to range low, and look at that. We're getting that H4 range low sweep. So there is a setup here on sand token. You're getting an H4 range low sweep. I would wait for that to close. It's closing in 25 minutes, so not too long from now. If that ends as a sweep, which is looking like it, you have a thesis for it to go back to the top of the range. Let's look at CAR, this token from today that has been explosive. You can do a quick little bit of research. Today we are launching CAR, an experiment design, blah, 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 blah. And this is from the Central African Republic. It's an official coin. Crazy that we're at a timeline. We're in a timeline where this is real. This is the thing that's happening. It's amazing. I mean, what an absolute fucking ripper. Crazy timing that it launches Super Bowl Sunday when a lot of people aren't paying attention. Let me switch up this track real quick. We've been listening to it for far too long. Let's find something else. Let's find something else. There we go. Good Sunday evening vibes. Take a look in the chat real quick. Moses says, thanks a lot, Rap. You gave me a lot of clarity in terms of what to trade versus what not to. Well, that's good to hear. That's the whole point of doing these. I mean, I do these streams part selfishly for myself because it helps me to walk through my process and speak it out loud and figure out where my execution could improve and staying on top of monitoring for setups, but also to help teach you guys the system that I use and how I go about my day-to-day. Hopefully it is always a mutually beneficial relationship. So, CAR, I mean, what a fucking run, right? Like, I think I have some buddies that got in around like 10 mil or something like that, something crazy low. It was super early on. I mean, what a wild run this thing is going on. So what do I see? Well, we had an M15 higher high. It since came down and tagged M15 demand and bounced. Now, it's sweeping that level right now. There's your M15 range. I mean, once you get a crazy run up like that and then it reapproaches the swing high, a lot of the times you're going to get a massive sell activity above that level from people that didn't sell this candle and they're like, oh shit, well, I don't want a round trip. So then when it gets back up there, they're selling off. If this ends as a sweep, there's a chance it comes back further deep down into the range, into demand. You can see also there was a trigger here too. Like I was just talking about on how sweeps as triggers to enter or exit are very reliable on perps, but they're also reliable on chain. Because look at that. You had an inter-range swing low that was swept while tagging M15 demand. You know, you get that sweep, you get the close, well, you try and buy somewhere back down here, and look at that. You had over a 2x move. And your target would have been back to range high, and which is what it did. Absolutely crazy cook. Does it have more in it? I mean, the narrative's pretty good. I just, who knows these days? Who knows these days? I don't really view anything as long-term until the market starts to signal that it's more open to holding a token for longer than an afternoon or a couple hours. So we shall see. Crazy cook though. The chain edge terminal caught it pretty early. From what I've gathered, I wasn't at my desk at all today. I decided to take it easy and hang out with my family mostly this weekend. Get some of that mental reset and re-energize since things are starting to feel more bullish on chain again, to just like squeeze out that last little bit of IRL time to go full ham back on chain. So yes, I am a missor of this play, but that's okay. What does make me excited is that we're getting runs like this again. I mean, for it to hit 860 million market cap when everyone was saying or thinking or feeling that Solana on-chain was dead just 48 hours ago, this is what you want to see. You want to see the degens and the gamblers come back out because there's things to trade. And here we go. Got pretty close to that 1 billion market cap. Does it end up hitting there, or are we just front-running that? Who knows? Looking likely that this is going to end as a sweep, so maybe you're going to get another chance to buy lower. But it's a crazy amount of volume. Like, what's volume on this? I feel like this isn't. I feel like the BullX volume is inaccurate because it's saying it's only been 19 million in volume. It seems low. What was the other coin from this weekend? Jail Duel. Let's open that up and take a look. Okay, not too much high time frame. Okay. So you have an H4 demand here that it's attempting to hold. Here's your H4 swing high. Now you don't have a swing low because there isn't one there. You have to go to H1. And H1 is bearish. H1 is bearish, but within an H4 area of demand. Why do I say H1 is bearish? Well, because you close below the swing low. And so here's your H1 swing high. Here's your H1 swing low. There's your H1 range. Now, it's one candle contains the entirety of the range. I know some people don't like that, but me personally, it works perfectly fine for me as a range. Provided that in a bearish range, the swing high was created before the swing low, which in this instance it was, as we can see it moved up and then closed down. Or if it's bullish, I'll accept the single candle as a range if the swing low was created before the swing high, because then that's forming your bullish range. In this case, it formed the bearish range. And in doing so here, it actually also tagged up into H1 supply. Look at that. I mean, really, you want to see this H4 demand hold. If you start closing lower, I think it's cooked. If you get an H1 flip above here, then you look to bid demand with aims to go back to the high. But right now, it's just chop. And one of those coins that kind of relies on the activities and actions of a single person, right? With what's his name from Barstool, Portnoy. But right now it's trading in between a high time frame demand and a lower time frame supply. Which wins out? I mean, generally I'd say a high time frame first. But with no true swing low on H4, with this demand, it becomes less of a for sure sort of setup to me. And I sort of lean bearish, but that doesn't mean this coin is over. I just sort of leaning that way at the moment. And I think there was one other coin this weekend that did. Well, we can look at TST as well, although I'll have to pull that up somewhere else because Bullx Neo does not support BFE. What was the other coin? Oh, it was shit. What was it? I'm drawing a blank. What was the other big coin this weekend? The other big coin, big balls. Let's take a look. Okay. Well, it's sort of not looking so hot right now, right? Not looking too hot. I mean, it looked pretty cooked if it came all the way back down there. It's not looking too hot at the moment. It is in an hourly fair value gap. There was one before that it was holding. It is into an hourly fair value gap. But I think really, if you're wanting to be the next swing high is all the way up here for an inter-range play. I think you're looking for this to hold. If the round here doesn't hold, it's pretty cooked. Now all this takes, and there's another one of those type of coins that one interaction can change the outcome of it. Well, part of the thesis on this is that Elon's interacting. Big Balls was the handle of a Doge staffer, and the narrative's pretty funny, right? And they were able to meme it with some of those old South Park clips of when Randy's carting his big balls around so that he could I believe it was so that they were microwaving their balls to get testicular cancer so they could get marijuana prescriptions, legal marijuana prescriptions. Wow. I haven't seen that episode in years, but that's making me laugh. I think you want to see this hold. There's a lot of supply, though. There's a lot of underwater buyers now. But it's fresh enough and new enough that it could still see a bounce. Oh, Moses is saying volume on car has been 485 million. I mean, fuck sakes, that's crazy. And why not? Let's just take a look at TST, and then we'll wrap it up. I think I'm going to need to pull up Deck Screener. To take a look at that one. There we go. And this will be the last chart we look at. If anyone has any questions, start dropping them in the chat before I start wrapping up. Let's take a look. Nothing. Okay. There we go. There's your H4 demand. There's your H4 range low. There's your H4 range high. You're looking for this to hold. Lose this level, it starts to look pretty grim. There's another key swing level that it could see a bounce from, or it might see a bounce from. You can even draw the fib. Let's see what it's looking like on a fib. Okay, so we're at the pocket now. Coming down and sweeping the range low will give you the 786. There it is right there. So there's a play. There is setups potentially here. you've even since coming into the demand, you've put in an M15 reversal right here. And it's tagged, you know, when you closed above here, you got an M15 swing high, higher high. And there's your M15 range high. It did sweep, and maybe this is it about to come down to put in a higher low, but there was your M15 reversal. Okay. So, you know, there's a setup here on TSD. And everyone, this is good to remember. I would jot this down. And I can write this in the AFM Telegram group for people so that you can make note of this. But this is how I approach any chart. So we'll just review that one more time before we shut it down. You're looking for your high time frame bias. Is it bullish or bearish? That means, is the chart printing higher highs and higher lows, or is it printing lower lows and lower highs? You want to define your range, which is the swing high to swing low, or a swing low, or a swing high. Sorry, you want to define your range, which is a swing low to swing high for a bullish range, or a swing high to swing low for a bearish range. You want to outline your supply or demand zones, and then you want to switch down to low time frames to look for those triggers, your sweeps or your high time frame fractals playing out on a lower time frame. Okay, look at that. Well, we talked about it earlier, and now BTC is green on the day. Let's see what happens here. Because remember I said at the beginning of the show, if you get an hourly close above this level, flipping H1 to bullish, then you look for demand. Now, 8 minutes to go, so you want to be monitoring this level right now. If in 8 minutes, the candle body closes above this swing high, well, then your demand would be here, your swing low would be here, and you'd be looking for, let's say the candle closes like up here, right? So you'd be probably looking for something to come down into here. And it might chop around. All right, so that's something what you'd be looking for on H1. You know, I'm not going to draw it exactly how it's going to play out because it's going to play out how it's going to play out, but you know, it's looking like a decent bet. Now, there's a battle taking place right now. And you can see that because this level is being fought over. Because bulls know if they can close the hourly above this swing high, then your H1 bias is shifted and the bias would be to go long. Bears know that if they close it below this level, then there's a high probability that it starts to trade back down towards the bottom of the range. This is looking constructive though. This is looking good. You got 7 minutes to go. Okay. And I don't see any further questions in the chat, and there aren't too many of you remaining. So I think we're going to wind it down. I do need to give a big shout out and appreciation to sponsors for this show. The Daily Edge, thedailyedge.com/subscribe, which is your daily newsletter giving you actionable insights, intel, and information from on-chain from the day before, written by the one and only legendary on-chain wizard. I also write for the Daily Edge. If you join the Daily Edge Telegram channel, you can get my daily thoughts, and I'm sort of using it like a journal at t.me/thedailyedge. There's links on my Twitter, on my X account for that. Also, a big shout out to ChainEdge, chainedge.io, which is the on-chain analytics platform tracking the top 0.01% of DEX traders by profitability. If you're looking to become a member of ChainEdge, if you go in the AFM Telegram group into the links channel, you can find a ref code for 10% off. Actually, I just remembered that I'm in the process of updating all the links in the AFM Telegram group, so I will post that later this evening. Also, if you are looking for a new terminal to trade on, Bullux is a wonderful option. If you go into the About section for this Twitch channel, you can find the link to my Bullux Neo Ref link, which will get you 10% off your fees. It's a wonderful platform with lots of features that are just rock solid and, quite frankly, give you an edge in the market. Solid execution, solid features. The charts are reliable and what a majority of market participants are looking at. So if you're looking for a new trading terminal platform, consider using my BullX Neo Ref link. Once again, I am 0xRapture. This has been Astrology for Men with the weekly close, which I aim to do every Sunday after the weekly close. Move my screen here. Once again, thank you to everyone that has joined during this session. Let's put one different track and we'll vibe out. Well, we'll just vibe out on this one. It's a good track. Thank you to each and every one of you that has showed up to another stream. Really enjoying doing these again. Just felt good to be back doing these streams. We're over 1 week deep. We started them back up again last Sunday. And they've pretty much been hitting an hour and a half every stream. I do want to try and get them down to an hour or less, but I do find that I end up chatting quite a bit. So it's a work in progress, but I thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Until then, ciao.